and welcome to our first interview for Mental Health Awareness Month. As we said, we wanted to highlight ways that people are fostering mental health. We say that mental health is brain health. How are we taking care of ourselves? This is such a critical time, and I wanted to introduce our first guest, Mike Shea. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how, we can even say how we met. We met through Chris Waddell, who's an awesome friend. And tell us a little bit about your background.
So just a brief story. I was a Paralympic athlete and snowboarder for Team USA for about a decade. I competed with them, traveled around the world, did some amazing and great things, met a lot of amazing people. But also now I'm venturing more into business. I have a woodworking business and cabinet shop where I make custom-made furniture and do architectural millwork. So it's been quite the journey over the last, I'd say, 10 to 15 years of just kind of changing my professions. But that's the short story of, I guess, my life story over the last decade.
That's awesome. I know that, you were telling us your story and how you ventured through, and you had an accident when you were young, correct?
When I was young, at 19 years old, out wakeboarding at my local lake here, and just was sitting up on the railing of the boat. We hit a crosswake, a big bump in the water. I had fallen over, and when I fell over, I must have scooped up the ski rope from the deck of the boat, and it was enough to completely sever my leg just below the knee when that rope unraveled around my leg while it was still attached to the boat. And that accident changed my life forever. And some would say it changed it for the worse, but it actually changed it for the better. I was able to do so much more after that because I feel like it kind of helped change my spirit. It changed my perspective on life. It made me appreciate things a whole lot more. And so, yeah, that was a changing point, a turning point in my life. I was 19.
It's so funny because I think so much of what I'm hearing now in terms of the pandemic stuff is also that there are some things that are really, really hard about it, really challenging times, but it also gives us these opportunities the same way that it gives you a different perspective on life and how you can. So when you had the accident, I know that was a challenging time. How did you take care of your mental health at that time?
So, at that age, I don't think I really dealt with a lot of mental health problems very early on. I think I had a very healthy lifestyle. My environment was extremely healthy. I stayed really active, which was a big part, I think, of why my mental health at that time was really good. So honestly, I bounced back from my amputation quite well, although I still did deal with some demons. It really didn't affect me until much later on because I had suppressed it with the abuse of prescription painkillers. And when you're alcoholic or when you're a drug addict, the use of that kind of just masks the feelings and you're self-medicating. So, at that time, I didn't really deal with mental health issues, but it wasn't until much later when I got clean and sober that I really it started to affect me. And then even later after that, when I retired from snowboarding, really realized how with age and with just the decline in I think just athletic lifestyle, how it really started to affect me. So it's definitely been a ebb and flow over the years, and I've seen how I've had to deal with it differently as the years come.
And when you were competing, I would imagine there was sort of that high, that drive, that you're competing, you're going for it. So it feels like that is mentally healthy, and there is an aspect to that because you're driven and you're getting those neurochemicals that you need, you're getting yourself through. But then what happened in terms of retirement? How does that?
That changed a lot for me. When I retired, I didn't even know I was going to retire, to be quite honest. It was 2018 in Pyeongchang, South Korea, and I finished my last run, and both events I didn't even place. And I had such high expectations on that games to do so well because the previous games I had medaled. And leading up to that, I had just put so much pressure on myself to perform that I didn't even really think in my head, well, what happens if I don't win a medal?
Right.
And when I didn't, it just like everything was just stripped from me. I didn't even know how to feel. And I had decided from that point, we had some issues with staff on the team, with other team members. And I just said, you know what? I need to take a break from this. I've been doing this for over a decade. I've had a lot of issues lately. Maybe it's just time to kind of settle down. My wife was pregnant at the time, so I knew that I was expecting, a baby. And then I also knew that I was going to start pursuing my career in woodworking, which was something that I had done previously. So I had my career change, I had my retirement, a baby coming, and then, dealing with the issues of not medaling at the games. And then when you stop competing and you've been competing for that long, you're everything is completely gone. And I really struggled after retiring. I went into a deep, deep depression and even started having what the doctors eventually said. I went probably a year with really bad physical symptoms, weakness in my legs, tingling, a lot of strange, just weird symptoms, to the point where I couldn't even exercise. And I was going to the doctor, getting tests, doing blood tests and all that. They said, you're perfectly healthy. We don't know what's going on. And finally I had gone to a psychologist, and the psychologist says, we think you might have something called somatic symptom disorder. And that's where your body actually does create pain or creates symptoms for you. I'm not really sure how it works chemically, but so that because it's to take away from whatever mental stress that you're going through in your mind. And I didn't realize at that point that I was deeply depressed because I had no longer enjoyed anything that I was doing anymore. I didn't listen to music. I couldn't get off the couch. I had no motivation. And so I finally at that point decided, okay, maybe it's time to start making a change. And when I started paying attention to it, started really going to therapy, started talking through a lot of the things I was going through, I noticed a significant change, and now it's a part of my daily lifestyle.
I think that one of the things that people don't really realize is that social and physical pain and social and physical threat aren't distinguished in the brain. So your brain has this pain, this depression, this being upset, and it presents itself as physical ailment, as physical pain, because it kind of has to interpret it. And we interpret, that's one of the things that's so interesting in terms of the mental health thing. It's almost okay to feel physical pain. It's not okay in our society to feel this brain pain, this social pain.
Yep.
And so we interpret it as such, and it's our brain's way of protecting ourselves. So it's getting into those routines where we can be healthy, where we can, and one of the things I think I talked about on the call before was that depression and anxiety are kind of like flight and freeze, and the opposite is action. So once you begin to get out and deal with it, that can help so much. What about the woodworking? Tell me about how you got into woodworking.
Oh, I got into woodworking before I started competing, actually. When I got clean and sober, that was the first hobby that I had kind of gone to. And I built a doghouse for my dog at the time. And it was this big elaborate doghouse with a big flower box and big barn door. And of course, he never used it, but I fell in love with the craft after that and started doing it pretty much for neighbors. We would make things for family and make things for friends. And it sort of turned into a little bit of a profession. And then after doing that, I decided that I was going to sell all of my tools to fund my move to Colorado to become an athlete. And that's when I really chased my dream of being a snowboarder. And then when I retired, picked it back up again and knew that I had kind of a craft to fall back on and something that I'm able to do to make some money. And so decided that's what I wanted to pursue from here on out. So I absolutely love woodworking. It gives me a release creatively to be able to go out there and just kind of work with my hands and do things that I like to do. So I enjoy it.
That's great. What would you say are the top things in terms of fostering mental health for your lifestyle right now? What would you say if you had to kind of say, what is the most important thing that you have to keep in mind to foster your mental health?
I think it's different for everybody, but for me, I know that I have to be really big on routine or schedule. If I don't have that, then I sort of tend to lose myself in what I'm doing for the day. And it's very easy for me to just kind of like fall back into that mode, that depression mode. And so I have to, when I first get up, have a certain things that I do that I know are effective in my life. And that's, maybe it's getting up and going for a walk, getting up and going straight to work without maybe sitting on my phone or, sitting on the couch for a little while. So routine is big for me. I have to make sure to do those things, but also to stay active. Those endorphins are so important and they make such an impact on my life. I know that if I don't continue to stay active. It affects me. And then also just staying creative and making sure that I'm understanding that that stuff really does affect me in a positive way. That when I'm out there and I'm seeing that I'm able to accomplish things still, and seeing that I'm able to build my confidence, that helps me tremendously.
That's awesome. So much of that is brain-based, right? That
Yeah.
we did that routine that keep our brains healthy, because we like to know what's coming next. That keeps us active. That keeping active in sports and keeping healthy, and then also the feeling of accomplishment with the woodworking, with the creativity is so important. Are you able to do the woodworking during
Yeah,
quarantine?
yeah.
That's awesome.
That's what I do on a regular basis anyways, is quarantine into my little garage there and just build whatever I need to. So it hasn't changed much for me in that matter. It's just the installations and stuff are a bit different, and I'm kind of dropping off furniture or trying to stay out of houses as much as I can. But yeah, I'm in the garage. No problems there. So I love it.
Can people see your work online?
Yeah, I have a Instagram page. It's Altered Grain Design on Instagram, and most of my work and stuff is up on there.
Altered Grain Design.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. And that's on Instagram. So people can
Instagram.
go up there and see what you're doing.
That's it. Yep. Yep.
We'll put a link
follow.
to that.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we'll put a link to some websites to see some of the videos of you when you were competing and stuff, just to see some of the stuff that you've done. You've got an amazing story, and thank you for sharing what you're doing to foster mental health, because I think it is different for everybody, but a lot of the stuff is the same.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think that these are really important for everybody, and you've got some great lessons. You've come from, a lot of big challenges. And now I think one of the things that's really cool is that you seem happy.
Definitely, 100%. And it's not every day, but it's the majority of the days. And as long as I can say that in my mind, then I'm good with that. I'm in a really good place. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And how old's that baby now?
She's a year and almost 8 months, so coming up on 2. She is quite the handful, but a firecracker, a good firecracker. She's awesome.
And it's nice that you get spend some time with her.
It's amazing. That's the best part about this, is just being able to spend more time with family.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and
thanks,
we're excited to put it up.